Anytime is the best time to sell, but when you break it down statistically speaking, springtime is the best time to put your house on the open market. Rates are going up, values are going up. We want to make sure that we hit the sweet spot for them as far as timing.
To sell and buy at the same time.
Right.
It could be challenging, especially when the inventory is low. A lot of our clients that are sellers, they've been in their home for a long time, and it's an emotional, even though we're data-driven, we're also dealing with, there's a lot of emotions, a lot of memories. When is the right time to sell? Hey guys, and welcome back to Black Belt in Real Estate. I'm super excited for this show because if you've been thinking about selling, you might wonder when is the right time to sell. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. As per usual, I have my mentor and co-host, James Suarez here. He's a listing expert. So let's do this, James. A lot of our clients and a lot of people watching right now, they've been thinking about selling, making that move. But ask themselves, when is the right time to sell?
That's great. I mean, statistically speaking, I'm a stats guy. The spring market seems to be always the best time to sell. That being said, we are in Los Angeles where it feels like it's spring year around, right? There's a myth in real estate that the holidays is the worst time to sell. Well, we've always seen a spike in our sales, during the holidays, because if there's ever a time, Peter, when you have the mindset of spending more money, it's normally during the holidays, right? You're just in an elevated mood. Oftentimes the budget goes out the windows when you walk into a house and it smells like a gingerbread, just got cooked, and you see the decorations, right? You're just emotionally, and residential real estate is such an emotional purchase. It just emotionally engages you even more. So depending on what area and what market, I would say, anytime is the best time to sell. But when you break it down statistically speaking, springtime is the best time to put your house on the open market.
Okay, so let's just go over the different types of seller that's out there. And there's people that are having a lifestyle change. They're moving somewhere, or they're looking to sell. Like, what should you think about? Like, how do you time it well enough to move to your next house?
Yeah, perfect. Great question. So the first and foremost is, again, not everybody, the timing works out to sell during the spring. So then it's okay, let's break down the summer market, let's break down the fall market, and let's break down, right, the holidays. Now, I just taught you about one of the myths in real estate, not to sell during the holidays. But again, looking at the timing, you would want to put the house on the market right after Thanksgiving, before, Christmas and oftentimes Hanukkah, right? You wouldn't want to list it and competing, against Santa Claus. You're not going to win that battle for an open house, right? So it's looking at the timing. If it's the summertime, right? We know that kids are going to go back to school toward the end, right? In which parents are distracted, which means the buyer pool is a little less. So then we would say, okay, probably not the best idea to list it, late August. Let's try for some time in July. But again, then we look at July, and if we're doing an open house, we wouldn't want to list it the first week of July because, we're not going to win against the fireworks. Most people, go on vacation during the 4th of July, and we want to make sure our buyer pool is the greatest.
Awesome. And I want to move over to there's like, we meet with clients almost every week, and they're like, hey, I would love to cash out. The prices have gone up tremendously, but where would I go? Like, if somebody's watching and listening to this show now and they're like, hey, I own my house for a while, the price have gone up significantly, I would love to cash out, but I don't really know what my next step is. Like, can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's awesome right now about our real estate market is that the equity has skyrocketed in most people's home, right? So first and foremost is, where would you want to? What is your dream destination? Because we could probably get you more than you think for your home, which will then allow you to, live that dream, whether it's an ocean view property, whether it's a one level, whether you want to move, back east to be closer to the grandkids. First and foremost is it's what do you want, right? And then we can reverse engineer that and create a plan to accomplish that for you.
That's awesome. And I think uh, looking at like a lot of our buyers, they want to stay sellers, they want to stay in LA, right? So they're either a generation that's been in their home for a while and looking to downsize, or they're growing their family and they need more space.
Mhm.
So let's break those two down. So if somebody's watching this now and they want a single story and they want to downsize a little bit, how would that process look like?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the more easy processes because now that they've, depending on downsizing, the most likely the purchase price that they're going to buy is less, and that's even more money that they can put into the down payment of the home to decrease their mortgage payments, maybe even be able to pay all cash for it. When it comes to upgrading, getting a bigger space, one of the questions is values. Right now we are continuing to see values increase. So if the home that they currently own is 1 million and they want to get to the next tier, maybe 1.5 million is run the numbers, right? If values are supposed to appreciate 5 to 10% this year, that's $50 to $100,000 that they're going to gain in equity. Whereas if they'd made the move sooner and got 5 or 10% equity in the 1.5, we're talking about 75,000 to 150,000, which helps kind of bridge that gap as well of buying into a more expensive. But right now, sellers who are thinking about waiting to upgrade, it makes it more and more difficult because values could continue to rise. So that gap of what they can afford gets, wider and wider. The interest rates are going up, so their affordability is starting to decrease a little bit as well. So it's again really, meeting with the seller, understanding what their goals are, and then reverse engineering that so that they can accomplish it as soon as possible because, rates are going up, values are going up. We want to make sure that, we hit the sweet spot for them as far as timing.
Yeah, and let's talk about pros and cons. Like about, let's say you're a seller, you're in a smaller home, you need more space because you have 4 kids and you're in a 3 bedroom house, but you have a big lot. What are the pros and cons of actually trying to make your own house bigger than selling and buying another house?
First and foremost, I would talk to somebody who has specialized knowledge, who has gone through a remodel like that before, right? Remodels are very difficult to go through. One, if you have kids, I would highly suggest not living in the house because there's a ton of dust and harmful particles that are floating in the air that you and your kids, don't want to be breathing in. And there's nails, right? I remember when we did one of our remodels where we tried to live through it, the contractor would not work while my family was in the property because he was worried that a nail could go through one of the floors or through one of the walls, and hit one of our children. So first and foremost is, when you run the numbers, run it so that you are renting somewhere for that time period. The other thing that I've learned through experience of remodeling is whatever price the contractor gives you, double it. Whatever time the contractor gives you, double it. So if you're not if remodeling homes is not something that you're experienced in or an expert at, I would definitely get some experience and expert advice for someone who has gone through that before because it could be a miserable experience if you're not well if you don't have enough information on it and have the right expectations. But if you have your heart set on that, again, it's running the number. So if you were to invest $500,000 to increase the house, what is the end value going to look like, right? Is it worth doing? In a lot of neighborhoods it is, but some analysis that I've done, it doesn't make sense to add on because now they've kind of overbuilt the property and the numbers don't support the value.
I'm curious on your thoughts. Obviously, we help a lot of people to buy, to sell and buy at the same time,
Right.
and it could be challenging, especially when the inventory is low. So, like, what are your advice to sellers that they want to do that? Like, what is the best strategy there?
Yes, well, let's start with the worst strategy. The worst strategy is try to buy before you sell and submitting contingent offers, right? Basically, the purchase is contingent on the sale. In a market that is hot as we are as a listing agent, when I see contingent sales, those go to the bottom of the pile. Oftentimes they don't even get responded to because those are the most risky, right? Someone has to sell their property in order to buy our listing. So our sale is completely dependent on this other property selling, right? So that's one of the worst mistakes a seller can make. And there's so many creative options out there and programs so that a seller can be in the best position, which is, let's say, submitting a cash offer,
Yeah.
right? We work with a program where a company that will actually buy the seller's house all cash, give them the cash so that they can buy their upleg property all cash, which is one of the strongest offer. And then once that process is over, we will then sell their property. They'll pay back the company the money that they borrowed, and now they have a new loan as well. So now it's best case scenario for both. They're not rushed to sell. They don't have to make unwise decisions because they're desperate, and they get to submit a cash offer on their purchase, which is the best offer you can submit to get the lowest value.
So there's options, right?
There are options for those that know that there are options, right? That's one of the most important aspects of selling a property is working with a professional that knows the ins and outs of real estate, that knows the different options that are available to sellers out there.
I'm curious, and I want to touch on this before we end today's show. Like a lot of our clients that are sellers, they've been in their home for a long time, and it's an emotional. Even though we're data driven, we're also dealing with. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of memories. So somebody's watching here. They're like, I need to sell. Like there's stairs. I don't want to do the stairs anymore, or the house is too big for me to keep up with. But there's so many memories there. Like how do you navigate through that process when selling?
I think anybody who's gone into the residential real estate understands that it's emotional, right? And that's one of the rewards of this business is because we are helping people enter the next chapter of their lives. And yes, most people have cherished memories in their home, and it's not just, four walls and a roof. It represents, they brought their, kids home to, raised a family, got married in the backyard, right? So it's being able to find buyers that also will appreciate the home and make cherished memories in their home versus maybe just having a developer who's just going to scrape it. So if somebody is very emotionally drawn or attached to their property, our job is not to rip it away from him. Our process is to end this chapter with a very good right conclusion, and then so that they can go and start a new one.
That's great. And James, before we end this show, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would say to a seller, right? If there's anything guidance that I could give to any seller right now is depending on we said this last episode, the value of your home can vary upwards of 10% depending on the agent that you choose. So make sure to do, your research so that you're not one of those that undersells their property. A team like ours, we pride ourselves on overselling our listings, and we're breaking records almost on a weekly basis. Try to find agents that have that type of track record.
That's awesome. Thank you, everyone who's watching Black Belt in Real Estate. I hope you found a lot of value in today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please give us a review, share it with somebody that needs to hear this message and want to know when the right time is to sell. Thanks again. And in next week's episode, we're going to talk about something that I know you're wondering about, and that is how do you find a real estate professional that you can trust. So check us out then, and talk to you soon. This is Peter Jumrukovski, and on behalf of me and James Suarez with the Suarez team, we would like to say thank you for watching Black Belt in Real Estate. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to earn your business. If you're curious on working with us, please reach out.